Yo guys, what's going on? Robert Warshak here, and we've got some huge balance changes here. Normally they would just do nerfs or they would just do buffs, but this time we have both nerfs and buffs to a ton of different classes. A lot of cards were hit, and this meta is going to be shaken up a lot. First thing, starting with the Celestial Alignment card. This has been a very frustrating card to play against because it worked for both players, resetting mana down to basically 0, and then it goes back to 1, and all the cards in the deck would go to 1. So now this Celestial Alignment only works for the player that's using it. It no longer will affect the opposing player, basically reducing the frustrations of this card in the dev notes. They said it wasn't necessarily a huge outlier in power, but it was the fact that it was extremely frustrating to play against because it felt like you just can't win from that point, especially if you're playing like Quest Priest. Not that I feel bad for Quest Priest, but it basically just nullified that entire quest line, so you couldn't complete it. There was a lot of decks that just once Celestial was played, it was very hard to come back with the Lady Anacondria combo. So happy to see Celestial get nerfed. Granted, the card still does exactly what it does. It just doesn't affect the opponent anymore, which I think is really important, and I don't really mind this card getting changed. I wasn't a big fan of it to begin with. Another one which was interesting was the Wild Seeds for Hunter. While they love the Wild Seeds, them being good in Hunter, it's weaved into a ton of different Hunter decks, whether you're playing Face Hunter, Big Beast Hunter, XL Hunter, even Quest Hunter. They're playing these Wild Seeds, and they touched on the stag a little bit. So they didn't change the stats or the mana cost or anything. They basically made the bow, instead of being a 4-2, they changed it down to a 3-2 bow. They just said it pumped out a little bit too much damage for the cost that it did, so this should realign it with a less frustrating, you don't die as quick, great bow. Granted, very small tweak, but still a good tweak, I think. Hunter will still definitely be very good. Taking a look at a massive change, it's going to be the Snowfall Guardians. Right now it's the 6 mana 3/3, and it is a huge card in combination with the Brilliant Macaw because they freeze your board, you can't do anything, it gets a ton of stats, and then you get hit the next turn. They're changing it now so it doesn't gain the stats, but they're reverting it back down to a 5 mana 5/5. So it still freezes the board, still decently statted, reducing the mana cost, but it's not going to be like a 13-13, 12-12 or anything like that anymore, which I think was important. But the freeze mechanic in the stall is still there. They just don't get the power behind the freeze. So I don't know how this will impact Shaman. I think Shaman still has a lot of very good tools, like Brokon. They still have the whole Sire Denathrius thing that you can use with the Macaws, but them getting to that point where they're playing these powerful cards and you're taking a ton of damage in one turn has significantly been reduced because you're not nearly taking as much damage from a Snowfall Guardian anymore, right? You play Snowfall, they hit you in the face, you're only taking 5, right? You're taking well below what you'd normally take from the Snowfall Guardian, especially if you're following up with a Brilliant Macaw. The Brilliant Macaw is only going to be a 3/3. So you don't, like, that's 5 damage, and then if they replay it, that's 8 more damage. So while that is still 13 damage, that's not the 20 plus that we were seeing before. And I think that's really important. Vile Library. So they didn't really touch on this card as much as I wanted. I thought they would change this to 3 mana, but they opted to take off the 1/1 that it would give without having an imp out. So now it does 1/1 less than what it already did, and they basically chalked that up to they want to reduce the amount of burst that Warlock has. So this was a very light touch to Imp Warlock, which was already a very well performing deck on ladder, one of the most popular decks that we've been seeing. So how much will this hit? I don't know. I still think Imp Warlock is still really good. It still has that entire draw package. I think this is a very minor nerf, and it would definitely still see play. Like, just sacrificing the extra 1/1 in stats, while is helpful, there's still that core draw. There's still this coming down on turn 2. You just have to deal with basically a 1/1 difference. Taking a look at the Nobold Illusionist. So this guy, mainly a wild card. They basically said that this guy just cheats out giant minions, and they don't want that to happen as much anymore, so they nerf this guy. I don't really play wild, so I'm not going to touch on that too much. Relic Vault going to 2 mana instead of 3 is actually a huge deal as well, because as we know with the relics, there's the 3-cost relic that summons the tokens. You can't play Relic Vault and that card at the same turn, so now you can play Relic Vault on 2, and then follow that up with the turn 3 relic, which I think is super important also for discounts. So if you have Sigil or you play the Dimensions, Relic Vault now is most of the time going to cost 1 and or 0 with the Dimensions, which means you can play that. And then if you have another relic, you're immediately going to be able to cash the Relic Vault in and then play the other relic. So I think this is actually a really huge deal. And Relic Vault going to 2 was a huge buff to DH. Also, Relic of Extinction costing 1 mana instead of 2 now, I think is also huge because with Sigil it'll cost 0. These are the 2 only buffed relic cards. I was hoping they would touch on the legendary minion and make his infuse cost like 3 or 4 instead of whatever it is now, just because it feels like it's a lot to infuse that guy, and playing him for only 1 relic card if he is not infused doesn't really feel good at all. But I don't mind this. Lightly touch classes that are underperforming, see if the tweaks work out, and then if it still needs help, they've opted to buff it later. But yeah, with these 2 cards being with Relic Vault and Extinction, I'm definitely going to retry the Relic DH and see if we can get that bad boy to work. The Biblimite, this guy, I was never a fan of this card. He was a 2 mana 4/4. He's going to be a 2 mana 5/4. I think at these stats, he could probably see play in some aggro DH, and that's because the Magnifying Glaive buff. So this guy just got 1 attack, not too much to talk about, but with the Magnifying Glaive buff as well, you get the extra attack on both of these, which wind up with 2 hits each, could be 4 damage, which is a sizable amount in the long term, especially for a quick aggro Demon Hunter deck. I mean, even think of like when Dread Prison Glaive was a 3/2 weapon, it was a powerhouse that got nerfed to 2/2 and then it saw no play, right? So like while going from a 2/2 to a 3/2 may not seem like a big deal, if we look in the past to stuff, like I said, like Dread Prison Glaive, it actually can make out to be quite effective, along with this buff on this 2 mana 5/4, which is a lot of stats. Aggro DH definitely got a bit of a buff there.
Oh, hi, dude. Do you want to remind the viewers that they need to subscribe and like and comment the video so I can get you cool toys like this one that squeaks and annoys the shit out of me? Oh, you want me to throw it? Okay.
Moving to the Abyssal Depths, it went from 4 mana to now 3 mana, and you draw your 2 lowest cost minions. This can now be slotted into a couple different decks to try to find those lower cards, whether you're searching for combo pieces or you're just using it for draw. A 3 mana draw 2, especially knowing which card you're going to draw, is really nice. And remember, this can only work on minions and not spells, so it's definitely targeted draw, which 3 mana draw 2, we've seen Arcane Intellect played for the longest time now, but that's not controlled. So Abyssal Depths, while I'm not still a fan of the card, I don't see it maybe it gets weaved into something, but I got nothing right now. Is an interesting card for them to touch. Battle Worn Vanguard, he basically just got reverted back to his 2 mana 2/2 self. He got nerfed to 2 mana 2/1 when Drekthar was at the top of the meta and they were trying to nerf the aggro DH, and now it's 2 weeks, so they're trying to rebuff what they have already nerfed. So Ironbound Brute, again, one of the cards that they're touching on to revert it back to its old self. It used to cost 7, they nerfed it to 8 because people were getting 2 brutes down on like turn 2 or 3, and playing a lot of stats like that early in the game can be really bad, looking at you, Implock. So I don't really see where the Ironbound Brute fits in, as DH still doesn't have that same glide package it did when Brute was a Brute. But maybe with between the Abyssal Depths, his reduced cost, and maybe he sees play again, but again, I'm not too sure on that. Moving down, we have the Legendary Invitation, which comes from the new Pure Paladin Legendary. It used to cost 3 mana, they're bringing it down to 2. I don't think that was the problem with this card, was it costing 2 and or 3. I think the problem with that is Pure Paladin's not good. The payoff isn't good enough. Like, while making basically 3 legendary minions that cost 0, I don't necessarily think that is powerful enough in this current meta, but maybe it is with all of these buffs and nerfs to classes. So again, not a huge fan of the Pure Paladin, but it is a cool card nonetheless. So happy to see, I guess, it getting some love because it currently is considered, I suppose, off meta. Moving down to Stand Against Darkness, the Dude package right now is apparently not where they wanted it to be. They thought it would be more powerful. As we know, Dude Paladin is not powerful. Pure Dude Paladin is also not powerful. There's no Paladin deck that is currently powerful. So Stand Against Darkness going down to 4. Tries to make that deck a little bit more competitive. At 5, it felt really, really bad. I've tried it in quite a few of the decks that I had been playing, especially Quest Paladin. So maybe at 4 mana, it all of a sudden sees light, but we also have another Dude Paladin buff, which is the Warhorse Trainer. So now it is a 3 mana 3/4. Your Silverhand recruits have +2 attack and taunt. This used to only do 1 attack, so he's statted very well. He's a spider tank, and he buffs everything +2, and they have taunt. So pretty good Paladin card, like, for sure. So this actually, between all of these buffs, Paladin may actually survive and be seen in this meta, because we also have a promotion buff. Promotion got a promotion. It's a 1 mana, give a Silverhand recruit +3/+3, but they also added taunt in here, helps against aggro decks. Not that we're seeing a ton of aggro decks, so it's weird that they just opted to like give this taunt. I don't think that really changes anything with promotion. I don't know what, like, I don't even know what to say about this. But like, Warhorse Trainer is huge. Stand Against Darkness is huge, and the Legendary Invitation's kind of like the icing on the cake there. So probably see some play, but again, promotion, this was a weird one. And then one that everybody hates, I don't know what they were thinking about this one, the 3 mana 3/3 Edwin. So this used to be a 4 mana 4/4. The thing with Edwin is every time you play the card, it gets the +2/+2. And it's a great draw package. So right now, Rogue is having an issue with draw. Rogue has always been great at drawing cards very, very quickly and being able to tempo out very, very fast. Right now, that's not the case. The secret package was a flop. It's really bad. But there is Miracle Rogue that's been doing really well, and Edwin's in that. And we saw Miracle Rogue brought to this past Masters Tour, and it was performing really, really well. So it's weird that they would target Edwin as the draw package buff instead of considering something else, like maybe making the secrets a little better, maybe reducing some cost of other Rogue stuff. But yeah, not a fan of this Edwin buff at all. Like, this is already, it was already a good card. Like, it was already a really good card. I think this might just set it over the edge. And now Edwin is just like an OP great card. Scrolling down to Sprint. So this feels kind of like the Nourish buff a little bit. Sprint now costs 5. It draws 4 cards. This is a very roguey spell. Like, Sprint is like a 5 mana draw 4 is pretty good, especially when you have stuff with prep in the deck. So now it's a 3 mana potentially draw 4. And yeah, not that Miracle Rogue did run Sprint. They have the Auctioneer with the whole bunch of coin package, but other rogues that maybe Secret Rogue or XL Rogue are like Control Rogue or some other rogue, now that this is reduced, could maybe see some light because draw was always an issue. But yeah, Sprint going to 5 kind of feels like Nourish. Like, I don't know, Nourish was 6, it went to 5, it got playable, and now Sprint going to 5, maybe playable. Silverleaf Poison definitely wasn't on my radar to be buffed, I'll tell you that. It went from 2 mana to 1 mana, so this is like a huge difference. And not that Weapon Rogue is good right now or played, like the Weapon Rogue that we're thinking of, even like Kingsbane, or the old weapon that got +1/+1 durability when you would equip a poison. Like, we haven't seen anything like that. The Miracle Rogue is the closest thing we have to like a weapon-ish rogue, and that's just 1 battle cry legendary in the deck, and then you like hit your opponent for like +10 damage, but you don't really care about draw because your deck already has a ton of great draw. So I don't really know what this particular card in which deck it's targeting, but yeah, it feels a lot better now being 1 mana than it does 2. But again, maybe there's a Weapon Rogue or some sort of stuff in the future for this, or ways to generate this, but I still even think at 1 mana, you just don't play this card. Like, it seems, I don't know, it seems like a silly card to play unless you're running other weapons in your deck. But right now, the best Miracle Rogue deck doesn't, it's just the minions battle cry, and like, you wouldn't play something like this. Secret Rogue did get a buff though. The new Hykus card, he has stealth. This is a huge deal because once you play him, he can probably live. And then when he dies and goes into a secret and that secret gets procced, he has stealth again, so they can't kill him when you have no secrets out. So you can kind of make sure you've got secrets out when you play this guy. So this is actually a really huge buff to this guy. It almost guarantees he's going to be able to go face for 5. And Secret Rogue is a very tempo-based, very fast deck. So this guy got a really big buff. Like, the stealth is very big. Like, like, I did not expect them to give this stealth, because now he's just good. Like, the card is a 4 mana 5/4 with stealth, and he's just kind of, I don't want to say infinite value, but he's a lot better. I'm surprised they also didn't hit Kidnap. If Kidnap made it so the battle cry of the minion played didn't go off when it kidnapped it and put it in the sack, I think Secret Rogue would be very good. But still, Kidnap, one of the worst secrets I think I've ever seen printed, because every single minion in the game either has a very strong death rattle or a very strong battle cry. There's very few minions that don't have battle cry. Like, 90% of all minions in decks have battle cry. So they're still getting the battle cry, and they're probably going to end up getting that minion back anyway. So until that gets changed, even though this guy is good, I don't know. It's going to be a hard sell unless the mini set has some really good secrets and you don't need to play Kidnap. But right now, there's just not enough secrets, and the secrets that we have are terrible. But this guy is actually really good now. Moving down to warrior stuff, the Sanguine Depths, they changed it from +1 attack to +2 attack. This is quite a big deal in Enraged Warrior, because having those high attacks definitely help the minions be threats. And right now, there's nothing threatening about an Enraged Warrior. One of the main problems, though, however, is draw. The deck doesn't have Battle Rage anymore, which was a 2 mana for every minion that you have damaged, including your face. You got to draw a card. So until that gets fixed, Enraged Warrior still has the issue of once it goes in, there's no reload. Like, you play your big stuff, it gets dealt with or frozen, and then that's it. Like, you don't have a lot of draw on the deck, which I think is a huge deal. We have Imbued Axe, which got, again, buffed heavily. Instead of doing infuse +1/+2, it now does +2/+2, and the infuse cost on it, instead of being, I believe, 3, it's now 2. So they buffed the infuse cost, and they buffed the stats it gives, and it's a 3-mana 2/3 weapon. So this thing is really good now. Imbued Axe is actually like a very, very solid weapon in my opinion, because +2/+2 to all damaged minions, 3 mana, it already does 6 damage in itself, and it only takes 2 infuses. Like, very solid. Very solid weapon. Cruel Taskmaster, it went from a 2-mana 2/2 to a 2-mana 3/3. Again, pumping up that Enrage Warrior. Battlecry, deal 1 damage, give a minion +2 attack. So they kept the Battlecry the same. They gave it an extra health. This is a pretty big deal. The card was already, in my opinion, pretty solid. Granted, it saw no play because Enrage Warrior sucks. But now that they buffed quite a few Enrage Warrior cards, 3 to be particular, it may actually see some play at the light of day. I'm not really sure. Enraged Warrior still has the same issues, like I said, with draw, but they're touching on some cards. I'm sure if it's still an underperformer, they'll buff it again. Some old changes that they're reverting back is the Tidal Revenant. They changed it from deal 5 damage, gain 8 armor, to deal 5, only gain 5 armor. So they're reverting back on the nerf that they did on this guy, because Warrior is absolutely trash right now. It's just as bad as Demon Hunter is, bottom of the barrel, sub 40% win rate. So Warrior definitely needed some loves. And reverting back one of the bigger, more payoffy Warrior cards. Not complaining about that. I'm not even sure why they nerfed this guy in the first place. He was never a problem. Shield Shatter, while it was a problem at one time, they completely gutted this card, changing it to deal 4 damage. They're, again, reverting their nerf back on this card, and it's going to now deal 5 damage to everything once again. And at 5 damage, we know how good that is. Warrior was at the top of the meta for quite some time, and Shield Shatter was part of that. Slam. Slam now only costs 1 mana. Deal 2 damage to a minion. If it survives, draw a card. Very solid card. I thought at 2, even though, again, it saw no play. I never had a problem with Slam being 2, but at 1, now it's actually quite viable. Like, you get to kill something, and if you don't kill it, you damage it, you draw, it only costs 1, and then you can execute it. So Slam Execute may be coming back in the meta, boys. So yeah, happy about the Slam buff here, and we're going to be probably building a juicy Control Warrior given with all of these Warrior buffs. Bash, another card I didn't think they'd touch. 2 mana, deal 3 damage, gain 3 armor. It used to cost 3 mana. This brings it into line with a more competitive 2 mana removal card that a lot of classes currently have. 2 mana, deal 3, gain 3 armor is very, very nice for Warrior. And it's good to see Slam and both Bash getting some love, because these are cards that have been around a really long time and just haven't quite been there, but now they're actually very good cards. So that's really cool to see. And then, of course, there's some BG updates, which I'm not going to be covering because I don't play Battlegrounds. But yeah, Standard looking quite juicy right now. Lot of buffs, lot of nerfs, a lot of cards touched. Where the meta will end up, not too sure. All of the very popular decks did get hit, and all the underperforming decks got buffs. So it's impossible to say where things will get shaken up to. I'm hoping things get shaken up a lot, and a lot of players try new stuff. Even though we're only like 2-3 weeks into the new expansion, it was feeling a little redundant playing ladder, only playing against the like 3 or 4 classes all day. Like, nobody played Paladin, Demon Hunter, or Warrior. Like, I didn't play a single one of them, like, in like a week or 2. So happy to see these rolled out so fast. Happy to see a lot of things touch, and looking forward to playing the balance patch. Again, this comes out today. So with that, thank you guys for watching. I'm Robert Warshak, of course, and happy whatever the hell day it is.